be able to start.
This is Richard Brownlee. I'm probably a little early.
All right. We are a little early. Agenda is over, so we should be able to get started right at 10:45.
Okay, we're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Curtis Stokes, that's the conference room. So it won't just be me talking. We've got just about a dozen of us
Okay, very good.
from this line.
Mr. Stokes, make sure that whoever speaks gets close to the microphone.
I think. Jeff, I updated our audio settings. Are we coming through any better now?
That was pretty soft.
Okay, so we moved the microphone a little bit closer. How is that working now?
That's better.
Great.
All right, my clock just clicked over to 10:45. Before we get started, I'll ask, do we have any commissioners on the line yet? I see several call-in users, but I'm not sure who's who. Any commissioners?
No, Coleman is here.
Okay.
Do you hear me, Judge?
Yes, I hear you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and get. We've got an echo coming from somebody. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started then. First, so we're on the record. This is the matter of Ameren Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri's tariffs to increase its revenue for electric service, which is ER-2021-0240, and also its tariffs to increase its revenues for gas service, which is case number GR 2021-0241. And we're here today for a on the record proceeding regarding 4 different stipulations and agreements that have been filed in this case. And this is a chance for the commissioners to ask questions and for the parties to explain what was intended by the stipulation agreements and anything else they want to bring to the commission's attention. We'll begin by taking entries of appearance, beginning for Ameren, Missouri.
Good morning, Your Honor. James B. Lowry, appearing on behalf of Ameren, Missouri. My contact information is in the docket. Thank you.
Thank you. And for staff?
On behalf of staff, we have Kurt Stokes and Jamie Myers.
Your Honor, we've got a couple other Ameren attorneys on as well that should enter their appearances when you like.
Okay. Other admin attorneys?
Good morning, this is, oops, sorry, had some feedback. This is Wendy Tatro with Ameren, Missouri, 1901 Choteau Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri, 63103. And I also have with me Jermaine Grubbs.
Thank you. For public counsel?
This is Mark Poston, the Office of Public Counsel.
For MECG?
Good morning, Your Honor. David Wood Small on behalf of Midwest Energy Consumers Group.
And for MIEC? For MIEC?
I'm sorry about that. I had a little trouble with my mute button. I'm
Okay.
Diana Diana Plusha for the Missouri Industrial Energy Consumers.
And for Legal Services of Eastern Missouri?
Thank you, Your Honor. Paul Bars for Legal Services of Eastern Missouri.
And for Consumers Council? Anyone here from Consumers Council? I'll assume not. For Renew Missouri?
Morning, Judge. Tim Opitz for Renew Missouri.
And are there any attorneys or parties that I've missed?
Judge. School board.
I'm sorry, yes, for School Boards Association.
Richard Brownlee on behalf of the Missouri School Board Association. And with me is Louis Irwin II. In case there would be question, he is a non-attorney, but will be participating in the call if required. Thank you.
All right. All right then. Well, as
this is Sarah Rubenstein. Sorry to interrupt. Here on behalf of Sierra Club and NRDC. Also on the line for those 2 parties is Bruce Morrison.
okay. Okay. As I indicated earlier, there are 4 stipulations and agreements before us today. I propose to go ahead and start with the gas one. And the first one would be the unanimous stipulation agreement that was filed on December 3rd. I'll start with Ameren, Missouri. Is there anything you'd like to inform the commission about this stipulation agreement before we start taking questions?
Yeah, Your Honor, briefly, I can just give an overview. There's 2 stipulations and agreements in the gas case. The first one essentially resolves the entire case except for one issue involving MSBA, Missouri School Boards Association. It reflects the parties' agreement that a $5 million annual revenue requirement increase is necessary to result in just and reasonable rates. It establishes a weather normalization adjustment rider, which is essentially identical or very close to identical to the one the commission approved for Spire a few weeks ago. And it also reflects both an expansion of funding levels and an expansion of programs designed to provide assistance to the company's low-income customers. So those are probably the most salient points of the main gas stipulation. It was unanimous or treated as such among the parties. Then, as I mentioned, there's a second stipulation that involves the company, the staff, and MSBA, but it's also treated as unanimous because there were no objections to it. And all it does is continue and tweak, I guess I would say, a pilot program for MSBA member transportation customers that was established in 2019 in the company's last gas case. I should also mention, Your Honor, just so that the commission knows, with me today, of course, are Ms. Tatro and Ms. Grubbs, but also Tom Byrne, the company's Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs, Steve Wills, the Director of Rates and Tariffs, Mitch Lansford, the Director of Regulatory Accounting, and also the Manager of our gas supply, Tim Eggers, that also could answer questions if the commissions have them and the council can't answer them.
Okay. Anything staff wants to address about these stipulations agreements for the gas side?
Good morning, Judge. This is Jamie Myers on behalf of staff. As Mr. Lowry stated, there were 2 settlement agreements in the gas case that resolved the gas case in its entirety. Staff was signatory to both of those agreements. We believe that those agreements result in a reasonable resolution of all the issues in this case. And with me, I have several other staff members here if there are specific questions, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you. Public counsel?
Yes, thank you. Public counsel did also sign the unanimous stipulation agreement. We believe this is a reasonable resolution of the issues, as the other parties have stated. And we were not involved in the school board agreement. That's all.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I can't, Mr. Poston, I can't hear you very well. Could you start again, please?
Yeah, let me adjust here. I just was saying that we believe the unanimous stipulation agreement is a reasonable resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. MECG?
Nothing to add, Your Honor. Thank you.
MIEC?
We also believe it's a reasonable resolution.
Legal Services?
Nothing to add.
Anyone here from Consumer Council now? Renew Missouri?
Support the stipulations. Thank you, Judge.
For the School Boards Association?
Yes, Richard Brownlee, thank you. Very briefly, and I concur with everything that's been said, Mr. Lowry. The pilot does continue. Staff and the company and school board have worked on that, and we believe it's a reasonable and a good solution. I did want to, just for the record, point out that Missouri schools operate uniquely under a statute, section 393-310, which was passed in 2002, that dealt, essentially allowed an aggregate purchasing by schools. It created certain limitations for the utilities, and in summary, it also said not have any negative financial impact on the utilities, other customers, or local taxing. And we believe this stipulation does in fact meet the grounds, at least the written grounds of that particular statute. And again, I mentioned before, I think if there are any technical questions from anybody that would be available, Louis Irwin II would stand for those. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody, Sierra Club and NRDC?
Your Honor, Sierra Club and NRDC were not parties to that case.
I'm sorry, yes. Okay, very good. And we'll move on to questions from the commissioners. I'm not sure which commissioners are here, so I'll ask Commissioner or Chairman Sylvie, are you there? All right. Commissioner Roop, did you have any questions? Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Holtzman? Commissioner Kolkmeyer? All right. right, it appears that there are no questions from the commissioners. And I have no questions. So we'll move on to the electric stipulations agreements. And again, there were two of those. We'll begin again with Ameren, Missouri. Anything you want to indicate about those stipulations and agreements?
Just very briefly, Your Honor, there are also two stipulations in the electric case. The first one is, I would call it the main revenue requirement stipulation. It reflects agreement that a $220 million annual revenue requirement increase is appropriate to establish just and reasonable rates. It addresses the billing determinants that will be used to set rates, establishes net base energy costs to track against the fuel adjustment clause, and addresses the retirement of the Merrimack Energy Center that will happen next year. And it also reflects expansion of both the funding levels and of the scope of programs designed to help low-income customers. The second stipulation resolved most rate design issues in the case. Both of these stipulations are unanimous or are treated as such. And as you know, because we had a partial day hearing last week, there are a few rate design issues left for commission decision, but probably 90% of the case or close to it has been resolved by those stipulations.
All right, anything from staff?
Good morning, Your Honor. Kurt Stokes on behalf of staff. We concur, Ameren. We agree that this stipulation results in just and reasonable rates. As far as resolving 90% of issues, back of the envelope math, we agree. It taking the 8 gas-only issues out of the case, 76 issues and sub-issues were resolved by this, leaving only 9 sub-issues for hearing. And so we do support and think the commission should adopt the stipulation. Thank you.
Public counsel?
Thank you. OPC supports the revenue requirement settlement, and we ask the commission order its terms be followed. We were not a party to the other stipulation.
Okay, for MECG?
Very briefly, Your Honor, David Woodsmall for MECG. In addition to all the issues addressed by Mr. Lowry and Mr. Stokes, there was one issue addressed in the testimony of MECG, that is provision 25, the green button issue. Green button is a protocol for large customers to be able to access their individual billing data. It was an important issue to us. This resolves it. It sets a timeline for when Ameren will be able to provide that protocol, and it's a provision that we believe is reasonable and should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. For MIEC?
The MIC finds the stipulation to be reasonable.
Okay. For legal services?
With respect to the first stipulation, we signed on to that, and we think that the resolution of the low-income issues was appropriate. We were not a party to the second stipulation.
Okay. Renew Missouri?
Thank you, Judge. Renew Missouri supports both the stipulations and asks the commission to approve them.
Sierra Club and NRDC?
Sierra Club did not oppose either stipulation, but did not sign on. NRDC signed on to the first one, but did not oppose the second.
Very good. School boards, you're not a party on the electric, but if you have anything to say, you're welcome.
Yeah, we're not involved in the electric case. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go on to questions from the commissioners. Chairman Sylvie.
Thank you, Judge. I do have a question about the High Prairie Energy Center. Does the settlement make any adjustment to plant because of the reduction in hours that High Prairie is available to run?
It does not, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, this is David Woodsmall. The issue of High Prairie and the rate base is just black box. So there is no finding whether High Prairie is in rate base or out of rate base. It makes no adjustment. It just settles that for purposes of this case. So I don't believe there is either explicitly or implicitly any type of finding regarding High Prairie.
Okay. And then on page 5 of the agreement, it states that Ameren will take the actions listed on pages 204 to 206 of staff's direct cost of service report. Does this include all of the requests beginning on page 204? And then what is meant by the reference on page 204 for lines 34 to 36?
Commissioner, this is Jim Lowry. There were probably, and I would have to pull up the staff report to specifically answer all of your specific questions, but there were probably, I'm going to guesstimate 20 or 25, maybe not that many, but 15 or 20 different bulleted items that staff had recommended. In rebuttal testimony, we agreed to, I would say, 80 or 90% of them, and there were a handful or less that we either thought were inappropriate or inapplicable that we didn't agree with. In rebuttal testimony, staff agreed with our agreement, so we were on the same page in terms of exactly what information and reporting staff and the company thought was appropriate, and the stipulation reflects that. Instead of listing, because it would have been 2 or 3 pages of exactly the specifics, we just referenced the provisions of the staff report that had been agreed upon between the company and the staff. It would take me a few minutes, honestly, to parse through the staff report to try to walk through, and I can certainly get it and do that if you'd like to do that, but to walk through exactly which ones we both agreed weren't necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
There was no disagreement between staff and the company about them, and no other party weighed in either of having any disagreement about where we landed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Commissioner Roop.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have one quick question on the second stipulation. So there's the provision in there where small general service customers have the option to switch to TOU rates when they receive an AMI meter. Is that just one specific TOU rate, or do they get to pick from the optional TOU rates that Ameren offers everyone else?
I'm going to ask Ms. Grubbs or Mr. Wills to address that question, Commissioner.
Thank you.
This is Steve Wills. So there's one particular rate.
Mr. Wills, before you answer, I'll go ahead and swear you in as a witness.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sure.
That's right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Commissioner, there's one particular rate that is made available to the SGS class through that, and it really arose from the 2019 case stipulation. We had agreed in that case that the rate that we call the overnight savers for residential customers, and we had originally proposed it as being a potential solution for electric vehicle charging at home to receive a time of use option to encourage charging overnight. And in the 2019 stipulation, we had agreed to propose a similar rate for the 2M class. I think largely the thought there was that some of the multifamily residential properties might have 2M accounts where residential customers would be charging electric vehicles potentially. So it extends that rate that we call overnight savers on the residential side in very similar form to the 2M classification. But that's the only time of use option that it creates on the 2M side.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate the clarification. Thank you much.
Sure. Thank you.
And Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. All right, I believe that takes care of all the stipulation and agreements then. Anything else from any of the commissioners? All right, well, with that then, we've accomplished our mission for today, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.